They're my faithful followers, YouTubers, Instagrammers, and TikTokers. I have one hell of a tale to tell you. Can someone tell me if they actually found out if it was true that this guy stuck his finger in a hot springs in Yellowstone Park, accidentally falls in and dissolves? Can someone tell me, is that actually true? Inquiring minds like me want to know. You know, I lived in Wisconsin and back and forth to Massachusetts since 1985, and one of the things that I find surprising is nobody is actually interviewing us from Wisconsin about Representative Hong losing that primary election. You know, instead I found an interview from Fox with some guy, John Morgan, a big top Democrat donor who now left the Democrat Party, who was a treasurer during the Bill Clinton administration. And I'm not really too surprised at that, you know, but when I first entered into social media almost 30 years ago, I did it just to stay connected with friends and family across the U.S. And today I was checking my analytics after having my account suspended and restricted and all over because I post political posts. And they say that they couldn't confirm my identity, which was a bunch of bull crap. I don't know how many times I've had to show my ID to Facebook. I can't count them, so many numerous times. But one of the crazy things about the analytics that I recently found out is my biggest fan base right now is actually out of Nigeria. Maybe somebody can explain that to me, you know, how I go from having, you know, my biggest base in Wisconsin and Massachusetts and all the way to California to now Nigeria with the, you know, you start feeling like a Democrat socialist. You don't ask and you don't tell. You know, I was actually at the State House in Boston in 2001 when they passed that gay marriage law, you know, but it was, you know, anybody who actually followed and pursued the Guantanamo Bay investigations, you would have found out that during those investigations why 9/11 happened, targeting the Boston Logan Airport, and it was because of offending every culture around the world, passing a law that used the terminology of gay marriage. That's why it became a common union language across the U.S. where they were passing gay marriage, but they weren't using the term gay marriage anymore after 9/11. But I knew that was going to happen right when I left the State House in April 2001. I was there in behalf of the Brewer Bill, which was against anybody just walking into any courthouse on an allegation of violence, seeking a restraining order. Just on an allegation. I was actually going to be a private investigator applying for my FID card, and as soon as you get alleged accused of with a restraining order, like my first child's mother, my daughter's mother, made a false allegation. You know, I was going to kidnap my daughter here in Massachusetts and take her to Wisconsin. It never happened. I never said that. You know, 2 weeks later, I'm at the Worcester courthouse where she's not showing up, and I'm waiting the whole day, losing another day's work and a day's pay, and the judge has to call her up on the phone and ask her why she's not there, and she explains to the judge how her attorney told her to lie just to apply for the restraining order, just to try to ruin my credibility intentionally. And this is the mentality of how, these people nowadays have that mentality. That's like the ignorance behind some of these people. Look at what they did with the Cabbage Patch, when the raids and the mobs of fighting and stomping their feet when they were releasing Cabbage Patch Kids. Another one was the Furbies. Remember when the Furbies were going on sale, Black Friday specials? Mobs were out. Recently it's been the Michael Jordan Nikes. These are the people who claim to be the poorest and the mothers in America who people think are traditional moms of the 50s that, would do anything to uphold the law and honor their family. But you look at the divorce rates of 60% of Americans in divorce rates with backed up probate and family court cases, and it's because the Democrats allowed this crap to get out of hand and think that anybody should be allowed just to walk in, make any false allegations that they want, and all of a sudden it reflects back on the man or the woman or the he, she, it, whichever you prefer. But it's been happening across the country. And this is why I don't vote for big parties. I'm an independent. I have my own beliefs. I've been showing up to the state houses back and forth from Wisconsin when it was Herbert Kohl to Massachusetts to April 2001, fighting for common sense legislation by the legislatures, knowing they take it away from the ballots to push their private agendas, like gay legislatures at the Boston State House in April 2001. I watched it happen. I saw 9/11. I just left New York the day before. I was in Wisconsin, flying back from Wisconsin after my great-grandmother was very ill and actually passed away. But I was in New York just the day before, and this is actually why I do these videos and why I get on social media and why I try to bring the awareness to the public that we need to maintain common sense and keep it productive. I'm a registered independent, but I vote conservatively. But this is why I prefer common sense. And I see that people with 1,000, friends or followers making videos going on MSN News and thinking that they have the poll. When every time I hear of the polls, like they did with Donald Trump in 2024, he was supposed to lose. But they're always wrong. And you don't get information from people with only like 1,000 followers like they do on Democrat networks. That's just like my local state rep only has 1,000 followers. It's like, who is he impressing? What is he doing? You don't even know who the hell this guy is, and he doesn't do nothing. Senator John Cronin the same way. He got off of social media because he's useless. These Democrats that are in my local area who run from me every time they see me at a downtown street days or civil days, whatever you want to call it, they don't want to stop and have conversation because they're not so bright. They know that I try to pass, and I do get passed, and I take it above their heads, common sense litigation, like with hemp, with medical marijuana, both now federally legal on a federal level across the country. And it took for Donald Trump to get it done. This is why I support him as an independent. I don't listen to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders tries to steal my ideas, like with Social Security. He's now making a pitch of an additional $2,400 a year. I'm shorted that at the minimum on my monthly checks from my best quarter nets. My best quarter nets are $6,000 a month. I'm receiving $1,300. I'm relying on government-assisted programs and social nets that I'm against, because I would rather have the right to decide how to spend my money than giving it to the government and letting them donate it and grant it to 55,000 non-government organizations, allegedly nonprofits, with CEOs dictating their own incomes, and some of them at over $300,000 annually, like at Veterans Incorporated with Vincent Perone. I can give names, I can give organizations, and I don't like any of it, because I should never be the one in need going on my hands and knees to these programs asking to be taken in as a homeless person, because my money is being stolen by the government, and these people are deciding how much they're worth instead of paying me my worth, knowing what it is at $6,000 a month. All right? You know, the more you know, the more you grow, the more you glow. You know I love you. Stay smart. Use common sense. Peace out.